Hi and welcome. My name is Christian and this is Quarantine Games. Instead of me doing a hero analysis in the beginning of each of my Marvel Champions videos, I thought we should do a hero review instead of each hero. Let's get to it. She-Hulk. I guess we better fill that quota. I'm actually kinda glad they did it, because She-Hulk offers a unique play experience and she is rather difficult to master. She has some problems and she also has some benefits, as all heroes do, but hers are more blatant. She's actually become one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Champions game, because her problems are a little more difficult to play around than other heroes, but when you get her working, she is amazing. Well, let's look at her deficiencies and abilities. Her problem is her low hand size when she is in hero form. Then you really need to work around that. You can get some upgrades and some supports that help with that. But those cards are really expensive. You almost need to use your entire turn just to build your board state. One of those upgrades also leads into another problem, that is her health. She has a massive amount of health, but soon all that health will be gone. So you really need to watch your amount of health and also have cards that either heals you or grant you more hit points. When you are low on health though, you have a card that can deal a massive amount of damage. She-Hulk already deals a massive amount of damage, but sometimes that card will be a trap. She also has a little bit of a problem with thwarting. She has that support that helps her with that, and she also has one of the best allies in the game. Why it is that, we'll get into later. Let's look at She-Hulk. The Lawyer and the Beast. Jennifer Walters has a recovery of 5 and a hit point of 15 and a hand size of 6. She has an interrupt on her card. When threat will be placed on a scheme, prevent one of that threat, limit once per round. This is a cool ability because both in solo and in multiplayer there will be placed amount of threat on the main scheme equal to the number of players, so you'll just remove the threat that will be placed because she is in the game. Then in She-Hulk, she has a thwart value of 1, attack value of 3, which is the highest so far, and defense of 2, and a hand size of 4. This is the lowest among all the heroes from the core set, and only Thor has just as low as a hand size as She-Hulk. She-Hulk also has a response, Do You Even Lift? After you change to this form, the hero form, you deal 2 damage to an enemy. That means you can just deal a lot of damage in the round. If you attack in the round when you flip to hero form, you will deal a total of 5 damage to an enemy. Now let's look at some of her own cards. The first is the Focused Rage upgrade card. It costs 3. It has a hero action where you exhaust Focused Rage and deal 1 damage to She-Hulk, and then you draw 1 card. You have 2 of those, which means that if you get both down, you can take a total amount of 2 damage and draw 2 cards in the round, which makes her a 6/6 hand size. This is also kinda bad because you're paying with your health, but that also leads into another card she has in her deck. Another card that really helps her with her low hand size is Split Personality. It's an action and it costs 3. You change your form, which is flip your identity card, then you draw up to your new printed hand size. Which means that if you can flip to hero form, spend almost all of your cards as much as possible, still have 3 resources left, play split personality, then you get 6 more cards because you flip to alter ego form. This is the greatest way to get your Focused Rage and the Avengers Mansion and so on. Let's look at some of the things that helps her with the biggest problem, thwarting. First we have her signature ally, which is Hellcat. She costs 3, she is an Avenger, she has an attack of 1 and a thwart of 2, both with 1 consequential damage. She has 3 health, and the most interesting thing about her is her action, which is just return Hellcat to your hand. Which means that you can, after you have thwarted with her 2 times, you can return it to your hand and maybe use her for a resource. That also helps a little bit with the hand size problem. But I like another idea, which is putting Avengers Tower in it to play Hellcat for 1 cheaper each round, and then have a thwart of 4 each round. Of course you need the 2 resources to be able to do it, but that's easy to come by. Another way to combat her thwarting problem is her signature support, Superhuman Law Division. It costs 1 and it's an alter ego action. You exhaust Law Division and spend a science resource to remove 2 threat from a scheme. I don't think this is particularly good, but it gets better the more times you use it. But it's also an alter ego action where you want to be is in hero form and deal some damage and thwarting a little bit, so you can get closer to your goal, which is beating up the villain. But it is great to thwart when you're in alter ego. The last option you have to help with a thwarting problem is legal practice. It costs 0, which is already great. It's an alter ego action. You choose and discard up to 5 cards from your hand. Then you remove 1 threat from a scheme for each card discard this way. All this threat that you remove has to be from 1 scheme, which makes this a little bit worse. Also compared to your terrible hand size, this is not a great card, but in a pinch it's usable. Let's look at her damage output. She has an upgrade that's called Superhuman Strength. It costs 2. She gets +2 attack, which means that if you flip, have this on, and then attack, you deal a total of 7 damage. It also has a force response. After She-Hulk attacks, discard Superhuman Strength, then stun the attacked enemy. This is really great because this is a way to preserve health, or maybe even saving your teammate that's low on health. We like cards that grants out status cards, especially stun status card. It's a little annoying that you have to discard Superhuman Strength, but again, it gains you 2 damage and also a stun, so that's fine for 2 costs. That's actually better than fine. And now to the best card in the She-Hulk pack, which is 1-2 Punch. It costs 1 and it's just a response. After you make a basic attack, ready She-Hulk, which means that you can, if you have this on hand and you're low on health, you can attack, then flip, and then recover. This, or just attack twice. This is just amazing. If you have more of these on hand, you can deal a lot of damage and ready and then recover, or just deal a lot more damage. Now we get to our more annoying card. It's Ground Stomp. It costs 2. It's in hero action. It deals 1 damage to each enemy. It's good to get rid of tough or maybe finish off a lot of enemies, but and also against Ultron is stellar, but it's just situational. If it doesn't deal at least 4 damage, it's under the curve. So you need at least 3 minions in play, and of course the villain, for this to make sense to play. But still, to get rid of the last 2 or 3 more Ultron drones so you can actually begin to kill Ultron, it's a great card. Now to the card that's just make it hit. It's all worth it. Gamma Slam. It costs 4 and is a hero action. You deal X amount of damage to an enemy to a maximum of 15, where X is the amount of damage you have sustained. This is just amazingly good, but When you're in hero form, you can't play it unless you have a double resource, and unless you have the focused rage or other ways to get cards. This is why you have to watch your health. I think keeping She-Hulk around that 7 or 8 mark so you can easily get the maximum out of Gamma Slam and also not close to dying is the key here. But Gamma Slam is also a kind of a trap card because you know it's in the pile. Then you try to play towards it by taking a lot of damage, and then you don't get it, and then you're like, oh Jesus, what do I do now? But it is a great card nonetheless. As you can see, She-Hulk doesn't really need a certain kind of resource, except maybe science. But again, I think Superhuman Law Division is more situational and kind of a bummer. And she has a lot of expensive cards, so you need a lot of setup cards, for example, Avengers Mansion, Avengers Tower, Helicarrier, Queen Carrier, her Focused Rage as well. Then she can play her cards. You also need some cards that grant you health, either by recovery or just hit points, or healing Because if you don't watch your threat, She-Hulk will die. And as always, I have a deck list for you. This is a She-Hulk protection. It's all about managing threat and managing your health, so you can play Gamma Slam for a lot of damage. You have the energy barriers, the Armored West, and Indomitable, Unflappable as well. And you also have the Night Notes to remove conditions from you, because when She-Hulk gets a stun, she is basically that's the turn, removing the stun. Another thing is also tackle, because tackle is just amazing when you can deal damage and stun at the same time. Set up your board state in the early game, getting a little bit of damage out of her. Then get your Hellcat and your Fury going, so you can remove a lot of threat each round, and especially with the Hellcat Avengers Tower thing, just keep cycling her. And then gearing up towards your Gamma Slam for 15 damage, and then just deal a lot of damage. To grade She-Hulk, that's a hard job to do, because she can be really amazing. She can also be pretty useless. It depends if the player doesn't manage her health at all. But I think I will grade her a C+. Her problems are quite hard to overcome, especially the low hand size and her thwarting problem. Her hand size problem is the worst though. If you don't see any of the cards that helps with the hand size in the opening round, I will just discard everything to get those cards you really need. It takes a lot of turns to set She-Hulk up, but when you do, she's quite amazing. But she's not Iron Man amazing, that's why I'm only rating her C+, and she's also quite hard to get going. Give this deck a spin, tell me what you find out, especially if you think I'm wrong. And that was She-Hulk, and I'm Christian from Quarantine Games. See you next time around.